This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. Today we're joined by Yvonne Irvine, who is joining us from the Maenad Wine Company. Maenad wines, I've just been experiencing them for the first time this evening, and a little bit more about that later. But Yvonne, if you wouldn't mind explaining to our audience, what is the Maenad Wine Company and how did it come about?
So Maenad Wine started, I guess, kind of the idea started at the beginning of COVID and sort of rethinking what I really wanted in life, right? And reflecting on things. And I really wanted to have a business of my own, wanted something of my own. And ultimately that came back to wine because I love what I do. I'm the assistant winemaker at Creekside Estate Winery and Queenston Mile Vineyards already. So I've been making wine for quite some time now. And we just decided to do, something small, but just embark on something for ourselves. And, at first we couldn't think of a name and we're trying to figure out where to go with that. We really wanted it to reflect me or us. This is my husband and I that's working with me on this. And he sort of did a little bit of research one day and said, have you heard of the Maenads? And at the time I hadn't really. And so he started telling me about them. They're these wild women that, were pretty exuberant and, drank a lot and did ecstatic dance and went out into the forest and performed feats of strength and just, really lived sort of a different lifestyle. And he was like, this is you, like in modern day form. And I couldn't have agreed more, really. So it just kind of stuck. And so we built this brand to sort of celebrate women and celebrate sort of the modern day Maenad. But I think, I think about it as celebrating women as they are. So just, not putting women into a box or like expecting a certain type of behavior or dress or whatever, just letting women be however they want to be and celebrating that.
And we have three of your wines to taste through this evening, which is quite a delight. I've already sampled some of the Vidal Pét-Nat, which you did warn me about previously. I was warned that it was quite lively, and in all of my 28 years of being a sommelier, have never had a bottle cover me quite like that did. Very lively indeed. I think I lost.
It has the Maenad spirit in it.
Yeah, I lost about half the bottle, and most of that is on my trousers and my computer and my shirt. Smells delightful.
I've never lost that much before, but
wow,
I have a bit of a routine with that.
So the first wine we're going to look at is the Piquet 2020 Piquet, made with Sauvignon Blanc skins, and beautiful label, the Maenad label there. Tell me about how this wine came about.
So Piquet, I tend to not think of as a wine because to me it's a bit of a different beverage. To me it's more of like a wine beverage, and I treat it when I drink it almost more like a beer than I would a wine. And so what I did was take some freshly pressed Sauvignon Blanc skins and sort of rehydrate them with some water. And I did add a little bit of sugar because I wanted to make sure that the final alcohol was fairly balanced for what I was trying to make. And then I just let it spontaneously ferment. I bottled it sort of right at the end of fermentation. So there's a little bit of a spritz there, but it's not quite sparkling. It just has like a liveliness to it. And I chose Sauvignon Blanc because, there's so many different flavor compounds in the skins. And Sauvignon Blanc is such an aromatic grape that I thought this could be really cool. And I mean, to be fair, this is my first Piquet that I have made commercially. So it is probably one of the more stressful products that I make trying to do this, right? But I went back and forth with this. One day I would hate it, one day I would love it. And I think my husband thought I was going crazy, but the final product that I got in the bottle, I'm really happy with. I'm really proud of, because it has like sort of that citrusy grapefruit orange component blended with this like herbal sort of piney. It almost reminds me of hops in a way.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. It's quite a delight to drink, I have to say. And what kind of success have you had with this? I mean, restaurants are slowly opening up right now. I can see this going down quite well in quite a few establishments.
Yeah, I've had some really great success so far with licensee sales, and I've been working with Drink Better with Carrie, and so we've had great success in Ottawa and Toronto as far as that goes, and people are really excited about it. Particularly the Pét-Nat seems to be quite popular.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think I'll be enjoying that in my future. I can see that being quite a nice Christmas beverage. Yes, I like that a lot. Thank you for showing me that.
Well, it's nice too because it's only 5.5% alcohol, so it's it's not something that's gonna be too much to drink a bottle of, right?
It's lovely how you've captured that Sauvignon Blanc characteristic with this type of beverage. It's quite a delight. Thank you. Next up is the one that I am currently wearing, the Vidal Pét-Nat 2020. There we go.
Yes.
Delightful label. So Pét-Nat, I think Pét-Nat's like cilantro for some people. Some people love it and some people really dislike them.
Yeah, it's definitely controversial. And I mean, I didn't intend for it to be quite so explosive and bubbly. So when I do open it, I do like let it sit in the fridge and chill for a long period of time, just so that it settles a little bit. I find it's a little bit easier. And I usually will do it with a pitcher nearby so that when it does, or if it does start exploding, I pour some off into that so that nothing gets wasted. But yeah, it's making a Pét-Nat like that is definitely harder for the consumer, trying to communicate that before they open it. So I did do a few things differently this year with I made a couple Pét-Nats and tried a couple other things to make it less likely to be quite as explosive as this one.
Yeah, that was I was wondering if that was built into your business plan so that people had to buy twice the amount so they didn't leave it all over the floor like I did. Now, this is fermented with peaches and sumac. What is the thinking behind that?
So this was kind of a spontaneous decision that I made. And part of it was that I make a lot of ciders. Well, not a lot, but I've done some sort of fruit infused ciders at Creekside. Yeah. And I was thinking, why can't we do this with wine and make something that's kind of a fun beverage that's a little bit different? And I figured Vidal is kind of like on its own fairly, I think, a little bit basic. It's nice. It has some nice tree fruit, but it's not bringing a whole lot to the table. So to me, it felt like a nice base to play with. So I got some Vidal and, just started thinking about what I wanted to do with it. And I definitely wanted it to be local. So I got some peaches and some wild sumac and co-fermented that. I kind of sort of steeped the sumac, if you will, without heating it,
right?
To try and kind of concentrate it a bit over time, and basically did like daily punch downs with the peaches and just tried to make a really interesting beverage. I was really happy with how it turned out as far as the flavors go.
Yeah, they really do. The peaches and the sumac really complement that, what you call the basic Vidal profile. But this really comes together well.
Thank you. And I did want it I wanted it to be subtle so that it still sort of felt like a wine. So that the peaches aren't like taking over it, that it kind of all comes together a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit when I saw that it was fermented with peaches and sumac, it kind of threw me a bit, and I was thinking, oh no, this is maybe not going to be up, aligned with my personal likes. However, I'm actually incredibly surprised by this. The integration of the peaches and the sumac with the Vidal is really quite something. I like
Thank
this one.
you. The sumac I find tends to lend more of a it's almost like a citrusy flavor note and a bit of like a tannin note, I
Right.
find.
Right.
Like it's still quite subtle, but the sumac that we get around here is a lot more subtle and a lot more delicate than sumac that you would get like Middle Eastern type
Yes,
spices.
yeah. That is quite beguiling. All right, I'll be revisiting that one as well. And then we have, look at this beauty. This is the skin fermented Chardonnay 2020. Now, you've made many Chardonnays in your past. How does this one differ?
I love making Chardonnays. So for me, I don't know. Chardonnay is kind of a little bit like sexy and hedonistic in the style that I like to do. And one of my favorite things about it is the texture. So I really wanted to play with texture on this. So it's skin fermented, so technically an orange wine, but I wanted to try and do it in a balanced way so that it wasn't a wine that all you got was the tannin. And so I kind of treated it like a red wine. It spent 14 days on skins, and I just basically tasted it every day to try and determine when I wanted to press it and get it off the skins. And then I did mallow and barrel aging with that as well, because I wanted that texture to be a part of it. And so the aim, and I'm happy with how it turned out, was to have it kind of, you get the tannin up front from the skin ferment, but then it softens on the finish and you kind of get that buttery, soft nature of that type of more fuller bodied Chardonnay. And it comes from the Niagara College Vineyard, which is in St. David's Bench. And I'm used to working with Chardonnay from that appellation. It tends to lend a bit of a bigger body style naturally as well.
I'll be quite frank with you. My jury has always been out regarding orange wines. I know that can be a controversial thing to say, but this one pushes all the right buttons for me. It doesn't have that harsh tannin that one finds in many orange wines. It's quite balanced, I have to say, and I do understand what you're saying about that richness from this vineyard source. This is delightful. Really, really good.
Thank you. That was really my aim, because I mean, I've had a lot of orange wines that I enjoy. And not that I don't like super tannic orange wines, but for this, I just really wanted to try and play with that balance and see what I could do to make something that felt like just a bit more fuller bodied and had a little bit more complexity into it as well.
Sometimes I find with skin contact whites, the tannic element from that skin contact completely overwhelms any sense of place in the wine, or of variety for that matter. Whereas this is undoubtedly Chardonnay. It still has that lovely St. David's Bench richness of Chardonnay. I mean, I can tell it's a Chardonnay, whereas with most orange wines, I have trouble, well, apart from Vidal, which sticks out like a sore thumb for me, but I have trouble identifying variety in orange wines usually.
Yeah, agreed. Because sometimes I find that all you get is the tannin, and it kind of overwhelms the glass and overwhelms your palate as well. And it can sometimes be a little bit offensive, I guess, in some instances. And I think, there's different ways to make orange wine and different goals, I guess, in the end. And I think treating it like a red wine and really trying to balance the tannins as opposed to just letting it go and press it whenever really felt like what I wanted to do.
I'd be interested as to your thoughts where this would sit at the dinner table.
Most of like, I think because of the tannin and that sort of thing, I tend to pair this with like charcuterie type stuff, like sort of like meats, cheeses, olives, tinned fish. You know, to me, it's a really nice sort of like an aperitif wine. I think there's a ton of food pairings you could do with it, but I just think it really works in that context the best because it really is quite balanced nicely by, you know, sort of those proteins and those sorts of flavors.
Well, these three samples we have here are really quite delightful. I'm most impressed. And as I said, this is the first time I've tasted any of these. Do you have any other things in the hopper? Because what we're looking at right now is 2 sparklings and 1 white wine.
Mm-hmm. So this year, my intention with Maenad was to kind of have it be an ever-evolving brand and not necessarily do the same wines every year. Because part of the fun for me is finding the creativity each year and finding what fruit I can get that year and that sort of thing. That said, I kind of fell in love with the wines that I made. So I did do the Piquette again, and I did do the skin fermented Chardonnay again as well. And I did do the Pét-Nat. However, I split the Pét-Nat and I also did a blueberry sage Pét-Nat as well.
Okay.
So that I could have 2 different ones, hopefully less explosive this year. And I did a skin fermented Muscat because I really enjoy a dry Muscat as opposed to like, I mean, I like sweet Muscat, but there's not a lot of dry Muscat out there. And the flavor compounds that are in Muscat is just like incredible, right? So I just figured a skin ferment with that, if I could capture all of that flavor from that grape variety would be really cool. And it's really interesting. It's in tank now, like off the skins. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. It's, you know, super aromatic, like the floral and the fruit that comes from Muscat is super exciting.
Please excuse my ignorance here. I was unaware that we had any Muscat in Ontario.
There's not a lot.
Right. Okay.
So it's not terribly common, but there's a few vineyards that have it. And I've worked with it in the past, you know, very small batches. And this year, you know, the vineyards generally were a little bit higher yielding than expected. So there was a little bit more chance for me to play around this year and find some interesting stuff. So I was able to get my hands on less than a ton of Muscat, but that's kind of my business plan is small batches right now. So it worked out really well.
On a similar thread with this Muscat thing, that's kind of blown my mind a little bit. Where on earth does this Muscat normally go?
So Fielding does a Muscat, and I think part of this particular block has also gone to Trius in the past. And I think they have done a small bottling with it before. I'm not entirely sure on where it goes in their product plan, but I'm pretty sure that they have a small sort of, I don't know if it's their showcase line. I'd have to check on that. But yeah, Fielding has one that they do, and Trius, and we've done one way back in the past at Creekside that we had as part of our Undercurrent series of wines. So, I mean, there's really not a lot to be had, but it's quite an interesting grape to work with if you can.
Color me impressed. Color me impressed. Yvonne, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution this evening. I'm definitely going to be enjoying these over dinner. And then I have to clean up my office floor here from earlier. Thanks so much for joining us. And hopefully we'll have a chance to taste in person at some point in the future, as these are great wines. I look forward to seeing what else you come up with.
Thanks so much. It was great chatting with you.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye for now.